We're gonna go in there.
Oh, yeah.
And look, Cafe Cubano! Cubano!
Oh my god. I think you're excited.
Cubano. I'm on vacation. I should be excited.
Funny. You could have gone.
I know. Hey, there's a tire place right there, too.
Okay. There we are. Day number 2. We're in the neighborhood.
Show that one to everybody.
The house?
Yeah, look at that house.
Beautiful. It's all wood.
Awesome. Sauce.
Gonna be going down the 7-mile bridge. Hopefully within
Which I
like
think
2
is that way.
hours. Yeah. Yeah. We're coming up to Marathon. This is gorgeous.
As beautiful as my new wife.
This was the very first tourist attraction built here on Old Navy, built here in Key West in 1935 during the Great Depression to help promote tourism on the island. And that lady in the booth right there, folks, that's Debbie waving at you. And this building right here on our right is known as Building Number 1. This was the very first masonry building built on the Old Navy base in 1852. It was used as a coaling depot for the steamships. The second floor was the salesmaker's loft. And that large red brick building to our right is the Key West Custom House. It was built in 1891 at a cost of $108,000. It was used as a district courthouse, a post office, and a federal building. If you look up at the roof, you're going to notice they have that high sloping roof. The government had that building built that way, so the snow wouldn't accumulate on top of the roof and collapse the building. And that worked out really well here in sunny Key West, the only frost-free city in the continental United States. And across this intersection on the corner on our right, that large building is a Mel Fisher part-time museum. Mel Fisher, he was a treasure hunter who found the Spanish island of Tulsa in 1985. They sunk off the coast of Key West in a hurricane in 1622. And in front of us on our right are the presidential gates. They're known as the presidential gates because several United States presidents have passed these gates on their way to the Navy base. And inside the Truman Annex, it houses the Truman Little White House. It's a museum for President Harry S. Truman. President Truman, he spent 11 working vacations here in Key West. Yeah, the only time they actually open these gates up is when the United States president is going through those gates, and the last president to go through those gates was President Bill Clinton. And this building right here on the corner, right here on our right, is the birthplace of the Pan American World Airways. It was a ticket office. The very first international flight was from Key West to Cuba in 1927. And at the end of this driveway right here on our right, that little cottage back there, great American poet Robert Frost spent 16 winters here in Key West. And also on our right, you're going to see this sign which says Pirate's Well. That was one of 3 freshwater wells we had here on the island in earlier days. In the earlier days, the only source of fresh water we had here on the island was the rainwater. And on the corner right here on our right is the Porter place. Joseph Yates Porter, he was Florida's very first health official. Dr. Porter was born in his house in 1847. And 80 years later, in 1927, he died in the very same room he was born in. And on the corner right here on our left is 3 bars. The bottom bar is the Bull. The second story bar is the Whistle, and up on the top deck is the Garden of Eden clothing optional bar. And in front of us, on our left, behind the black cast iron fence, is the Curry Mansion. William Curry, he was Florida's very first millionaire, and at the time of his death, he was the richest man in Florida. That 20-room mansion was built in 1899 by William Curry's son, Milt, for $10,000 as part of his inheritance. And across this intersection on the corner on our right, that stone building is the Key West Federal Building. It was built in 1931, and the material they used to build it is called keystone. And keystone is part of fossilized coral rock. Today it houses the U.S. Customs and Immigration Services because Key West is our official entry point to the United States. And this neighborhood we're driving through now, in the earlier days, this was a really rough and rumbled neighborhood. This was a part of the island that when the sailors and shippers would come to Key West after being out to sea for weeks at a time, they would come into this part of the island right here looking for brothels and bars. And in front of us on our right is now be a 2-story white building with red doors. And in 1969, it was known as the Red Door Tavern or the Bucket of Blood. They had so much violence inside that bucket of blood, and if you went to those doors without a weapon, the doorman would have gave you a weapon so you can have something to protect yourself while you're inside. Today's a high-end ladies boutique. And this little white building right on our right is Pepe's. Pepe's is the oldest restaurant in Florida. It was built in 1909, and it was alleged when President Truman, when he was there, he used to like to have a lot of his meals at Pepe's. And I'm going to make this left turn right here in our historic seaport area. And this yellow and white building in front of us on our right is called the Henry Flagler Train Museum. Inside they show short films about Mr. Flagler's railway lines coming to Key West. And they also have a lot of artifacts inside that building. Your ticket you have your possession will get you free entrance into that museum. Seaport area, and we'll have a trolley coming by here 5 past and 35 past an hour. Word meaning corral or pen. In the earlier days, they would keep the turtles in the pens until they were ready to make them into turtle steak or turtle soup. Today, the turtles are a dangerous species, and they stopped that practice since 1972. And this mural right on our right was painted by a world-renowned artist named Wyland. Mr. Wyland, he's on a mission to accomplish 100 steps. It is also going to be a stop for Ripley's, believe it or not, believe it or not. See those high arched doors. And on the opposite side of the building, they have the same doors. In the earlier days when our fire apparatus was source driven, they would enter on one side of the building and exit on the other side of the building. And on the corner in front of us on our left is the world's famous Sloppy Joe's Bar. This was a relocation for Sloppy Joe's Bar. The original location for Sloppy Joe's Bar was across this intersection in front of us on our left, the yellow building that has a sign in front of it which says Captain Tony Saloon. That was Sloppy Joe's Bar from 1933 to 1937. And in 1937, The owner of Sloppy Joe's, Joe Russell, he had a rent dispute with his landlord. His landlord wanted to raise his rent $1 a week. Joe Russell didn't want to pay that rent increase, so one night, 1937, Joe Russell and a group of his friends, they relocated his bar overnight without closing. And now we're traveling up to Wall Street. Wall Street is the main street here in Key West. It is 1.5 miles in length, and it was named after William Polk Duval. He was Florida's very first civilian governor. Ripley's Believe It or Not once said that Duval Street is the longest street in the world because it connects the Atlantic Ocean, and that's what's in front of us, to the Gulf of Mexico, and that's what's behind us. Though Duval Street's only 1.5 miles in length, the true title for the longest street in the world belongs to a street in Canada. It's Yonge Street in Canada that holds that title, the longest street in the world. Yonge Street is a little over 1,700 miles. And in front of us on our right, the little white house that has the green shutters in front of it, and the address is going to be 322. It's the oldest house in Key West. It was built in 1829. Francis Wallington, his wife, and 7 daughters live in this residence right here on our right. And in front of us, on the corner on our right, is the old schoolhouse. This was a private school that Mr. Wallington's daughters attended. And if you look up on the second story, you can still see the old school bell attached. And this building was built in 1842. Our next stop is going to be stop number 4. Stop number 4 is going to be for the Hard Rock Cafe, the Old House Museum, the old schoolhouse, all the shops and restaurants from the beginning to the middle of the Wall Street. And it's also going to be the stop for Ripley Street. It's also going to be the stop for the Jimmy Club at Margaritaville. And of course, to my watch, this is the perfect time for a margarita.